What's going on, everybody? The Diehard MMA Podcast was filmed live and exclusively on odds.com. So if you missed the live show, click the link below. It'll take you over to odds.com where you can watch the exclusive replay where we go over UFC 255 and all the betting action, our favorite spots with special guest Matt Holt from US Integrities. Thank you very much. Share this link out, and we'll see you guys over on odds.com.
The next one up is Daniel Rodriguez, 13-1, taking on Nicolas Dalby, who is 18-4. This is another really, really wide line here, and I think this one may be a little bit more on the justified side. We've got Daniel Rodriguez minus 310. Comeback on Nicolas Dalby is plus 255. Dalby's one of these guys that left the UFC, had to get a little win streak together, and then made his way back, and he kind of floundered in his last fight. He lost to a guy that he was a big favorite over, was not supposed to drop that fight, and on top of that, he got caught with a big power shot before he got taken down and submitted. So when you look at Dalby's record, it looks like he's never been knocked out, but he's been hurt on the feet a lot, and even though that hasn't been the way he's actually been finished, I'm starting to worry about Nicolas Dalby's chin. Daniel Rodriguez, on the flip side of this thing, extremely fast hands. We have seen this guy be so fast, huge power in his hands when he puts those combinations together. Long jab, cuts angles, but he fires from the hip. He's a little hittable himself. He's a 10th planet jiu-jitsu guy. When he's got people hurt, he's got a nice killer instinct, but he doesn't rush it. He doesn't put himself in danger trying to get the finish. He kind of lets it come to him. I like everything I see from Daniel Rodriguez here. I'm just not so sure about the price. How do you feel about this one, Matt?
I'm trying to find a reason to take Nicolas Dalby. And I know that last fight, again, and this is a guy who owns wins over Cowboy Oliveira. Dalby has some legit wins. Coming in after that Oliveira win, there was a lot of expectations, and then he had injuries. And when he came back from the injuries, this past July against Jesse Ronson, who everyone was emotionally invested in getting his first UFC win, but nobody actually thought he would win. To your point, it goes down as a rear naked choke loss for Dalby, but he got knocked the bleep out. Jesse Ronson, who's not a power guy, basically knocked him the bleep out. But go back and watch that fight. The one thing that's interesting about that fight is Nicolas Dalby did look sharp. He didn't look really sharp. He didn't look razor sharp, but he was winning every minute of that fight leading up to getting caught, and then it just completely imploded on him from there. I think he's actually a little bit technically better than Daniel Rodriguez. And I know most people are going to say, what? Look at Rodriguez. He's smashing all these guys. I think Dalby's technical striking's a little bit better and a little more technical at least. And I think his grappling game is probably a lot more technical. But Rodriguez is a killer. He is just an absolute killer. I don't know. I've lost money betting against Daniel Rodriguez before. And I was surprised how good he looked against Tim Means. But he just blasted Dwight Grant in his last fight. And I'm like, wow, this guy's a monster.
Yeah, he really seems like he's coming into his own.
And he's, again, we're talked about the height and reach advantages. Daniel Rodriguez about 1.5 inches taller, slightly longer here. I think if Dalby's going to win, he's going to have to get his grappling game going early to slow Rodriguez down, and then maybe potentially, because he's a heavy guy on top, Dalby. If he can get a takedown and wind up on top, and at least slow Rodriguez down a bit, then I think his technical striking could certainly help him get a decision win in this fight. This one's tricky for me. I'm definitely not laying it with Rodriguez. It's dog or pass for me. Right now it's pass. And I know it's easy to remember Dalby and how chinny he looked in that Ronson fight, but he, if you go back and watch the Cowboy Oliveira fight, he looked really good in that fight. So
The only thing on that Cowboy Oliveira fight is I think he's got a bit of a gas tank issue, does Dalby. I think you're right. He's got the better grappling than Daniel Rodriguez does, but that only lasts for about a round and a half.
Yeah.
The reason he won that fight against Cowboy, and I remember this vividly because I actually had a bet on Cowboy that night, was the referee gave him one of the most egregious stand-ups I've ever seen. Cowboy finally got on top. He had Nicolas Dalby pinned in a corner up against the cage, and he gave him about 5 seconds. And since he was kind of solidifying the position before he went to work, the referee stood them right back up, and it cost Cowboy the fight because Dalby was able to get back into it. But you could see the fire in his eyes die when he ended up on his back against the cage. You could see him waving the white flag, and he got bailed out by the official. So even though I think Dalby does have a grappling advantage here, I just don't know if he'll be able to implement it for a full 15. And I think that Daniel Rodriguez might be primed for a late finish. I think the only way I'm going to potentially play this fight is I'll be looking at Rodriguez by knockout. That's kind of the way that I think I'll look, or maybe I'll sprinkle that Rodriguez round 3 prop, hoping that Dalby can hang in there and make it a fight until things get a little bit further in. Might end up being a complete pass for me.
Could end up being a spot where I play the over on this one as well. 1.5 rounds. I could see Dalby having some early success in round 1, getting some takedowns, and to your point, fatiguing like he always does after round 1, and maybe Rodriguez starting to pour it on late in round 2, maybe even getting a stoppage in round 3. But we're at a round total here of 1.5. Yeah. And I saw minus 125, minus 130 out there, so that may be the way I end up playing this one.
That's not a bad look. That's not a bad look. That recency bias of everyone seeing Dalby go down so quickly in his last fight, that's not how he's lost the majority of his fights. So I could absolutely see him coming in with a more defensively sound game plan, grappling, and getting this thing to the second or even the third round. So another potential totals look that I actually really like.
And I think he completely ignored Ron Sone's striking. He said, this guy's all submissions. I don't even have to worry about his strikes and all. And he got caught with a punch he never saw coming. And then it just, it deteriorated from there quickly, and he ended up getting choked out.
And that's a good point. It's something we need to remember in MMA, because if you're not game planning for the right opponent, if they come out and do something that you don't see coming, it's the punch you don't see coming that hurts the most, man. So he may not have gotten knocked out if he had taken his opponent seriously, and he potentially sleptwalked through the striking game thinking, I got this guy.
Yeah, I think he did.
All right. I like it.